In my most recent D&D campaign, I made an entire town only to set it all on fire a few sessions later simply just to make a point, and I think you should too. Let me give you a little context of the situation. My party was searching after a cult of Cthulhu to be specific. After doing some investigation, the party figured out that the cult members were probably hiding, or at least a cult member was hiding, in a town, a old pier town called Whisperwind Pier. Now, this town is an old port town that is very disheveled and empty, sort of abandoned, kind of dead. It's not really used for what it used to be used for since a new, bigger port town has taken over, but it used to be the prime of trade between the continent it's on and its neighboring one. But since then, it's kind of useless. No one visits, no one does anything. It's just a bunch of people living there who don't want to leave, but are sad that it kind of sucks to live there. So the party goes there in an effort to try to find a cult member or tracings of the cult, which they do. They find a lot because that's where the cult leader is actually hiding out in a mansion. So the party shows up and they got a couple things they want to do, a couple things they need to do, find a place to stay, do a little asking around, make some friends, and one of the party members was a dragonborn. He wanted to, for part of his story, to find other dragonborn and figure out kind of where he came from. That was his whole mystery. He doesn't really know. He just kind of hatched from an egg once and was super confused. He goes and visits. This dragonborn is a female brass dragon, I believe it was, named Biri. She used to be a pirate, and now she just lives in the quiet town trying to get away from all that nonsense. So they make some acquaintance with Biri, talk a little bit, do that stuff, and then they go and make an effort to find the cult. With a good couple of well-rolled persuasion, charisma checks, using the information they know already, not to make any mistakes, they get some information about an individual named Grimm, who had brought his religion maybe 1 to 2 decades ago to this town, and basically has been donating money to the town to keep it afloat, and built an entire mansion on a hill at the north part of the town simply to hide, but also disguise his cult behind the guise of a religion. Pretty common cult stuff. The party now wants to go and investigate the mansion. They don't know if anyone's home. They can't figure it out. People don't really know. They say Grimm comes and goes. They're not sure. So the party goes to the mansion to go investigate. Outside the mansion, standing in front of the door at the end of the tall staircase, is a hill giant. Originally, I placed the hill giant there just to be a one-off combat encounter that just filled some time in the session, maybe a little fun, and it wouldn't matter much. Instead, what the players had in mind was they decided it's time to befriend the hill giant, or specifically one of them decided it was time to befriend the hill giant, Lorelei, a moon elf. She befriended the hill giant, first friend he's had pretty much ever. She kind of played around his dumbness. I played him very dumb, but I think how I played him and how that went down is a bit of a different story that I want to do a video on someday, so I won't tell too much, but they befriend the giant and they get inside the mansion. So the four of them step into the mansion, and immediately after entering the big open area, open section with high ceilings, are presented with a set of staircase on the far end, and on the staircase, it's 2 staircases meeting up, and on the top and bottom of the staircases are some cultists, and immediately combat ensues. But right as combat's ensuing, they notice a dark cloaked figure turn around very quickly and run away, and then all the other cultists come and charge them. So they get through the 4 cultists pretty easily. It wasn't intended to be too difficult, but the 5th dark hooded figure, gone. He teleported out. That was Grimm, who's not actually Grimm. It's Luca, who is the brother of Ditto. Ditto is one of the player characters. They're changelings, so that's a fun interaction. They're twins. Luca's basically Ditto's evil twin. Now the players are presented with an empty mansion and possibly a lot of information they didn't have before. So they go and explore the mansion. There's some combat encounters here and there. There's 3 Grell, actually, inside the library where the teleportation circle is and where a lot of the information is. There's some treasure as well. There was actually a few items from this book hidden inside the mansion. I didn't follow this book word for word when I ran the campaign, but has a lot of Cthulhu stuff in it, so I was kind of just running with it. It's Sandy Peterson's Cthulhu Mythos. If you're using Cthulhu in any way, or you just want some really creepy stuff, I recommend getting the book. It's a very good book. A little confusing, kind of complicated, but if you're willing to sit down and really read and figure it out, I definitely recommend getting it. So after the party searches around for a bit, they discover some more information, some more important information, and decide, well, it's late. We're going to camp out in this mansion and take shifts overnight like usual so that we don't die. But that we also can stay here and continue searching in the morning. This goes by fine. I don't ambush them. I don't do anything like that. Not a big fan of nighttime ambushes. You know, it makes sense in certain cases, but if you do it too much, it can get a little boring. They wake up in the morning. They begin planning and doing their things. Around halfway through the day, they realize, or I should say the person with the highest perception realizes that while walking by a window, in the corner of their eye, they catch some smoke coming from the town below, and they turn and look, and the entire town is on fire. And that is pretty much how I addressed it. Very quickly, very bluntly, the entire town is on fire, catching fire. Immediately, the players freaked out. They're like, what, this isn't supposed to happen. You just brought us to a town. Why would it be on fire? This is not normal. And they began panicking, and at that moment, I let everybody know, except for Ditto, the brother of Luca, to step outside of the room. Luca had sent a sending message to Ditto, and I wanted to create a impactful moment by making sure only he heard it. I don't have the exact message here right now, but it essentially went along the lines of, you know, you're always the goody two-shoe brother. Here's a present, the mansion, and have fun with it. It was kind of short and vague, but that's kind of the point. At that point, the party decided, well, we have to leave the mansion, and we have to save the people in the town. They're heroes. That's the whole point of D&D. So they step outside the front door. Immediately, they see at the bottom of the steps the hill giant that they befriended is fighting what looks like a red toad creature on hind legs. Big, not as big as the hill giant, but pretty big, which, if you know, is a red slod. They go, help him kill it. They just, on passing by, a couple slashes, knocks it out. The hill giant was doing fine. They continue to pursue inside the town. And the first thing they go look at is a pawn shop that they visited prior in hopes of getting free loot, because that's how they work. But I came up with a plan. He survived. He took all of his stuff. It makes sense that a pawn shop owner inside of a rundown town would have a backup plan to escape. He's got some magic items. They didn't get anything. They got a cauldron that makes magical soup. It was cool, but it wasn't that important. But during that mission of, we need to save the magic cauldron rather than all the people, they were actually attacked by a green slod. The green slods are the one that have fire spells, including fireball. So the green slods are actually around the town setting the building on fire, while the red slods were running around and basically slaughtering the population. So they fight this green slod. It goes great. It's fun. And I should add now at this point, I built out an entire playlist on Spotify specifically for this called Alien Invasion, because that was kind of what it was supposed to feel like. And it felt really good. I was able to use a really high bass speaker during this. It was a very fun and impactful session. Probably my favorite session I've ever run for that campaign because of it. So use music on important things. It matters. At this point, I give them the map of the town, and I have my own map of the town. And my map of the town has locations of all the enemies and their routes. And their map of the town doesn't. And I tell them, which direction are you going? Pick a route. Where are you going? Because their goal is to save some people. So they start doing that, and that kind of lets me figure out how do I do the encounters. And if they want to do stealth, then I pay attention to that. It was a really fun way of doing it, and I think it worked out really well. About halfway through, maybe, they notice and hear some gunshots coming from the southernmost part of the town. And if you remember correctly, I mentioned that there was a dragonborn that they befriended that used to be a pirate. And in my game, I run guns. They're basically just crossbows. She uses a rifle. She's actually a fighter that just uses a rifle. And she was up on the roof of her house shooting down at some growl that were trying to come and attack her. So immediately the players went, we need to help her, because it's the only person they found so far that wasn't dead or being ripped apart in the moment that they saw them. So they get down, they save her. She's completely confused, blames them a little bit at first because some people come through asking about a cult, and then immediately your entire hometown, well, wasn't her hometown, but your entire town that you're living in gets burned down. It's a little sketch, but they save her. They literally save her. The wildfire druid used his wildfire spirit to teleport her, and if he hadn't, she would have died by the grow. And they decide, well, we need to get back to the mansion. The mansion's still not on fire. I made that very clear. Mansion's not on fire. No one seems to be going after the mansion. Ditto was told, here, have a gift. So they were kind of like, it's our best bet, because worst comes to worst, it's something we can defend if needed. And they decide, we're not that prepared for combat. Let's not go through the town. Let's go around in the forest, the surrounding forest, wrap around. Good idea, and I had something planned for that, and ultimately it was better for them. But trolls. There were a set of 2 trolls, a normal troll and a toxic troll, or venom troll, I believe is what it's called, that were taking advantage of all the screaming people being funneled into the forest and just catching them, killing them, getting ready to eat them. They didn't know what was going on otherwise. They just figured, well, nothing's coming after us. Let's take advantage of this food funnel. And so eventually the party found the 2 of them, defeated them, but it was a nice fight. The dragonborn they were saving also almost died again. She was not doing too good, but she's kind of an older dragonborn, so it made some sense. Eventually, they got back to the mansion. They brought everyone up to safety and made sure everything was good, and kind of just watched the fire burn down the town. They couldn't really save anyone else. It was kind of intentional that they couldn't save anyone else. I gave them some minor opportunities, but they opted into stealth over actually going to save them, which is, in my opinion, a good decision. They avoided most of the fights. They only did 2 combat encounters. Well, 3 if you count the Grell, but those had been slightly damaged by Beery, so it was kind of just an easy, if not normal, medium encounter. So they get back to the mansion and settle down just a little bit and plan to go search through the rubble after it wears down. There's more stuff that happens in the campaign, obviously, after that, although this is probably middle to almost end of the arc of the campaign. They died after maybe a couple adventures later, which is a really good story that I'd like to tell as well. But you might ask, why did the mansion survive? Why did this happen? The way I was running it is Luca, the leader of the cult, had some kind of relations with the Slotty army, and he had some debt to be paid, or they had some debt to be paid one way or another, and he basically said, hey, go attack this town, don't attack the mansion. I want to make a point to my stupid brother who's always been ruining my plans as far as I know him. I don't want him killed because I want to kill him myself. The point is, I want to show him that I have power. And that was sort of the intention, and it worked really well. It was a very, very good session for that. It was great. So that's why he didn't just kill them. Now, there's more plot holes and gaps, and those can be answered with pretty much just the Crown kind of was following the cult. I call them the Crown. I forget the king's name. I don't have it on me right now. They never interacted with him, so I didn't flesh him out too much. It was a homebrew world, and I didn't want to work harder than I needed to. But this dude spoke with Luca multiple times and was basically promised a position of power when the essentially apocalypse came, once Cthulhu was summoned. Whether it was true or not, probably wasn't true. he probably would have died just like anyone else, but he was in on it. So the town being burned down was just shrugged off as an accident. No guard was sent to clean it up until weeks later. In fact, the party never actually heard about that because they were too busy. But yeah, that's sort of what happened. And I have to say that burning down a town just to make a point is probably the most fun I've ever had as a DM. It's a very powerful thing you can do for a villain. I also, when I say that you should do it too, I don't necessarily mean you should go build a town and then set it on fire using whatever villain you're using. You can if you want. It was really fun and a very good tactic when it came to making a point. But the point I'm making is that it's more of a metaphor. As a dungeon master, in my opinion, you need to be willing to create things, almost flesh them out so much that they're real and living, and you have to be willing to just destroy them. Or allow them to be destroyed if that's what happens. Because it really makes an impact in the world when things change drastically. Especially if you're only playing every other week or once a month. Drastic changes, when they can happen, they shouldn't always happen, but when they can, really make an impact on the game and your players. And it's just a fake universe, so who really cares? Have any of you dungeon masters out there done anything crazy and drastic like that? And if you have, what was your experience? Did it work out? Did you do anything that I didn't mention that would help improve the outcome, maybe? If you want to hear more stories, more commentary, and maybe some video game content, I plan on running some video game content on this channel. If you're interested in that, feel free to subscribe. If you liked the video, liked the topic here, please like, and just genuinely thank you for watching. Hope you have a nice day.